So I really wanted to get a chapter of Italian Tutor done today, at least, because I was leaving work at 2. Originally I thought I was working till 6 tonight, but then it turns out that I was only working till 2. So I was really excited. I thought I was going to have way more time than I originally thought, and I was going to get a good amount of work done. And I got out at 2, and then my boss needed an extra set of hands for tonight for closing, so I get to go back to work for a few hours right now. So I am gonna put on an Italian podcast, like probably a coffee break Italian for the drive over, because I can sense how tired I am right now. I've already drank coffee today, but I'm exhausted, and now I've got to go back to work. So by the time I get home, I don't think I'm gonna be really feeling like getting Polyglot progress editing done and doing language stuff and all of the other things. Honestly, I think there might be a 7 p.m. nap happening tonight. We'll see what happens, but for now, here's a little bit of me trying to use up my dead time by listening to a podcast. Slowly but surely getting through this. I've been working so much, but I am working on it as much as I can. I've been pretty busy with work, and I had a couple of kind of rough nights where I just really was not feeling it. So I've been kind of doing minimal stuff, definitely like some coffee break Italian, and I think I did a Spanish one too at one point, in the car while coming to or from work. I have done a little bit of Duolingo and things like that. I kind of started a chapter in my Italian book and then stopped midway through, and just now tonight I decided that I wanted to try to finish chapter 17. My goal for the week is to get through 3 units this week, and hopefully 5 units instead, because if I can get through 5 units, then I'll have finished the book. So I decided to finish one of them tonight. I had about half to 3/4 of a chapter left, and I finished that and decided I would start chapter 18, and I ended up just finishing chapter 18. My other things for this week are I want to kind of make a plan for my Bulgarian studies, just kind of figuring out what I want to do for it. And I would like to book some italki lessons. It's been a month, 2 months? I guess more like 2 months since I have had any italki lessons, just because things were a little bit more chaotic with trying to get a job. I didn't want to book an italki lesson and then have to go in for an interview or something. And then the other thing that I want to do this week is film a Spanish diary. I'm gonna do that probably this weekend, I would guess. But before that, I do want to do a Spanish journal entry, practice writing for a little bit. I always like to do that before I film a diary. That is this week. The other thing that I did that I haven't really done since, but I feel like is still worth mentioning in this kind of monthly update, is the other day I did I don't want to say bad thing, but a thing that I wasn't wanting myself to be doing right now, which is the other night I was kind of wanting to plan out my 2021 language learning. I've seen a bunch of people kind of commenting on what they're going to do next year on Twitter, and I feel like in general I've been getting very excited to kind of do my bullet journal and my language plans for 2021. We've got 4 months left of the year, but I'm done, I guess. I'm ready for 2021. I'm ready to kind of plan that. I think partially because I am not getting this kind of new start with the back to school stuff. I didn't get to get a new bullet journal and a new calendar and stuff like that, which is what I usually do at this time of year. And so I think I'm ready for it. It's been a year since I started this other bullet journal and stuff, but I'm trying to switch myself over to the whole annual thing now that I'm no longer in school. But I think the urge to get a new planner it's here. So like I've said, I think my next language and what I kind of focus on for next year is gonna either be Arabic or Japanese. And so I was just kind of listening to both, and then I just kind of casually got lost listening to other languages that I want to learn at some point, and somehow I eventually ended up listening to videos of Scottish Gaelic, and I think everyone knows where this is going now. And I really wanted to do a little bit of Scottish Gaelic. So I was not having a great night, to be completely honest. And so I went to bed early, but I decided to do some Duolingo Scottish Gaelic. Obviously, did not teach me very much. I don't know very much Scottish Gaelic at all. I don't remember anything, as it really turns out. So yeah, I don't know if that's really going anywhere, but I am opening back up the possibility of me dabbling in Scottish Gaelic. It has always been something of these past 2 years, I guess, that I have not wanted to very seriously commit to. It's something that I do want to have more as a dabbling project. I do want to take it seriously at some point, but for now, I think it's nice to have a project that I'm not very serious about at all and am just able to kind of pop in and do some Duolingo, pop in and do some memorize. Oh my gosh, I just got a Duolingo notification as I'm filming this. Even though it does take some time away from my serious language projects, I feel like it kind of reinstills that excitement for my other language projects. Like, I feel like taking the night to do some Scottish Gaelic and just like learn very beginner stuff and have fun on Duolingo made me excited to go to languages that I know a little bit more and improve my German, improve my Italian, improve my Spanish, etc. So I think for me, having like one dabble project, and I guess I could eventually like jump around, but I kind of think it's nice to have one language that is just kind of set as my dabbling thing right now, that I just kind of go to for funsies once in a while whenever I'm also feeling maybe like a little bit burnt out or not really remembering kind of why I do language stuff, because sometimes the intermediate plateau just gets to you. But yeah, that's definitely a new little update. It may be a thing, it may not be. I'm not really sure yet. Hello from my floor. I look like I'm crying, but I promise I'm not. Today I got language stuff done, but not necessarily what I thought that I was gonna get done. So I booked 2 italki lessons, one for this upcoming Monday for Spanish. It's an hour-long lesson with my tutor that I had previously taken a lesson with. I bought like a whole package with her, so 5 lessons, and I just haven't scheduled any of those yet. I had one scheduled for the end of July, and then my salamander got sick, so I had to cancel that one, and so I haven't had a Spanish lesson since July 14th. I'm exceptionally concerned about how this is gonna go. I've talked about this a bit. Coming back to languages after a year, everything has felt quite difficult and very rusty, but I think that Spanish and Italian have been 2 that have felt kind of the most rusty, I'd say. I mean, I thought that Spanish was gonna be the worst, but I think it might be Italian, which is a little weird because my Italian level was higher than my Spanish level based on the OPIC exam, though I kind of feel like maybe they were closer to the same level, and it is partially because I was freaking out during the Spanish exam. I was so anxious, and I forgot very basic words, and as soon as the test ended was like, oh, that's the word for, I don't know, morning or whatever. Like very basic words in Spanish that I knew and I just totally blanked on during the exam. But either way, I did get a higher level on the exam when I took it for Italian than I did for Spanish, and partially I thought that was accurate. I did think my Italian level was slightly higher. But yeah, Italian has definitely been the one that I feel like I am the least comfortable speaking in right now. I'm hoping that doing my Spanish journal entry this week and then my Spanish video diary entry this week will make me feel a little bit better about my Spanish. That actually helped with my German, even though I was feeling pretty bad about that. So I'm hoping that it's just kind of a cycle here this summer of I'm feeling bad about it, write a journal entry out, film a video, realize I can write and speak in that language, and feel a little bit better. And hopefully that'll happen then with Italian too. The other thing that I did today was find some memorize courses, and while I was doing that, I started to kind of look for B2 specific vocabulary kind of courses for Italian. I've been just trying to think of my language levels a lot more objectively throughout the rest of the summer, since it was something that I was kind of having my little crisis about, because obviously they have changed quite a bit, and I would also say that a lot of my kind of perceived levels in the past I don't think have been entirely accurate. Not necessarily recently, but I think in the very early Polyglot progress days, I think kind of where I was marking myself at for French and for German as I was kind of studying it to begin with are probably not where I would now say I was at the time. And truthfully, I think this is just because I've gotten more experience with actual certification exams, with just these scales in general, with kind of more objectively being able to look at what my level is, and also being able to communicate where I'm at in ways other than using the scale. I think at the time I didn't really have the words to say what concepts I knew and what concepts I felt comfortable using, and my level of vocabulary and stuff in the ways that I do now. And so I think saying that I was in the C range for French felt right at the time, because it felt like I had that level of advanced knowledge with concepts and stuff. But I don't think, looking back, that at the time when I was very early on with polyglot progress, like when I was going into college and stuff, I don't know if I really was a C1. I'd say I was like probably like a B2, like a high B2, but I don't know if I could have necessarily passed a C1 exam. And that's not to say that I was trying to like fake my level, or I thought that I was so much better than I really was. I think I just didn't really have the ways to say that I was an advanced speaker that understood a lot of the concepts that are encompassed in the C1 without actually being a C1, and who knows, maybe I was a C1. But just looking back, I feel like a lot of my time with German, as I felt like I was a B1, maybe even a B2, I don't necessarily know if I was. I think I was like an A2, B1, upper B1. I don't know if I've ever solidly been an upper B2 in German. I feel like probably lower B2, but I don't know if I've ever been an upper B2, which I think I feel like maybe I was getting close to or was at some point in time. Overall, just what I'm trying to say is I think now in my life, in a time where I haven't even used the CEFR scale to talk about my level in languages for probably like a year and a half, 2 years. It's been a while because I stopped going off of that because it felt like it wasn't actually truly encompassing where I felt like I was at in a language. I still feel that way. I think I've just gained a much better way of being able to communicate kind of where I feel like I'm at any given point, especially because I feel like that is just so fluid. I just don't think it's the most accurate way to talk about where I'm at in a language and how I'm feeling about a language. But just to kind of update where I'm at, I think it might be nice to kind of tell you where I'm pretty sure I am at in terms of CEFR levels for all of the languages I'm studying. I feel quite confident in these descriptions. These have been backed by kind of like language tutors and that sort of thing at this point, and a lot more kind of looking into it and just kind of comparing where I'm at and things. I originally looked into this just because I wanted to be able to find things like vocabulary lists that were based around certain language levels, just to kind of help me figure out kind of where I should be at in terms of vocabulary and resources and that sort of thing. Like, what will help me progress the most is figuring out kind of like, okay, well, what's the next level? What are people at this stage working for if they are going for a certification exam? I'm not going for a certification exam, that's for sure, but what would I be looking at if I were? And how can I base my learning around that? So I guess we'll start from the lowest and go up, I guess. And the other reason I looked at this is because I registered for the Polyglot conference the other day, and it makes you list your languages by level, and so I had to think about it again, and I was like, yeah, I feel pretty solidly confident in all of these things I'm saying. So I think I'll just update you just for the sake of having like a little marker of where I feel like I'm at in this point of time, and also because I know some of you do like hearing where things are at on the CEFR scale. If that is something that you find to be a really cohesive method of understanding where someone is at, this might be a good way to see kind of where I'm at in my language projects. So I guess I'll go from lowest to highest, starting with Bulgarian. Bulgarian, I'd say I'm an A0. I do not think I could pass an A1 exam. I think I could pass an A1 exam if I studied, but at this like present point in time, definitely an A0. I put myself down as an A0 for the Polyglot conference. Spanish, I guess? I don't know. Currently I'm feeling worse about my Italian, like I said, but technically speaking, I did test lower in Spanish, so I'm gonna rank it lower currently because I think probably they're around the similar range. Based on my OPIC exam that I took, I am a B1 in Spanish, and I would say that that is accurate. And I would also say that that is accurate for Italian, which I tested out as like an upper B1, so it's like technically B1.2 or something. And I'd say that's true. I think that I was in kind of probably for Spanish more of a mid B1 range as opposed to like a lower B1. And I think Italian I was in kind of an upper B1 range. And I'd say still currently my struggle is getting myself from a B1 to a B2 in those languages. I think that's currently kind of where I'm at, is trying to push myself up into the B2 range for those. German. This is one where I actually am a little bit hesitant about where my level is, because I think possibly I'm a B2 and maybe like a lower B2, but I might just be a high B1. And then French, here we are. This is one of the most difficult ones because I'd say that I feel like I can do a lot of the C2 things, and previously I have said that I feel like my level is a C2, but I couldn't pass a C2 exam because of my speaking abilities, and I still think that's true. But I don't know, maybe I'm not a C2. That's one of those things I've been thinking about recently, of there's so much that I don't know in French. There's so many words, so many expressions that just, when I come across them, I'm like, oh, I've never seen that before. And it doesn't happen super often, but I think that's because I know the very common stuff that comes up. Like, the top 5,000 words that make up 20% of a language, I probably am very comfortable in all of those. But when it comes to more like idiomatic expressions and things like that, I'm not always exposed to those, and so I don't know, maybe I am not really a C2 because there's so many things that I'm just not used to being exposed to and don't have as good of a grasp on. So I would say how an actual CEFR exam would go for me for French if I took it right now is that I would probably get like a C2 level when it comes to reading, when it comes to listening, probably get C1, C2, maybe somewhere in the cusp there when it comes to writing, and completely honestly, I think I would get a B2 when it comes to speaking. Like I said previously that I wanted like to feel like my speaking was at a C2 level to kind of catch up to the rest of me, and I guess that is kind of still true saying that right now where I'm kind of at the cusp for writing and feel like understanding wise I could definitely pass the C2 level, but I quite frankly do not think I would pass the C2 exam solely because I think I would be dragged down so much by my speaking. And it's honestly really kind of a bummer to think about that, just because I feel like I love French so much and I am starting to feel much more confident in my speaking abilities in other languages, and I think it's just frustrating to me, I guess, that I was able to progress so much when it comes to writing and listening and reading in French, and my speaking level was not progressing at that same pace when I was in high school, when I was in college. I mean, in college definitely it improved more, but I think just I did not get the same level of speaking practice, improvement, etc. throughout all of that time, and obviously like I can improve it now, and I'm trying to do that through taking lessons and working on my accent on my own and that sort of thing, and obviously like Polyglot Progress is this great opportunity to post videos and get critiques and stuff, but I can't help but be frustrated occasionally that I have spent so many years with this language and I didn't do the things that I needed to improve my speaking when I wasn't being put in situations that were improving those in the way that they needed to. And obviously a lot of that's because I just didn't know that this was something that I was going to be pursuing like this. Had I known the things that I know now about language learning, about myself with language learning, obviously I would have done a little bit more there, but I didn't. So I can only kind of go back and try to make it catch up to the rest of my French level. So I guess where does that leave my French level? I guess C1 is what I will say. Maybe like a low C1. But completely honestly, I think my speaking is a B2. But yeah, that's a fun little update on all of my language levels. Oh, and Esperanto. I put it down on the Polyglot Conference website because I think I may do a wild little challenge video next month where I just kind of see where my Esperanto's at and see how much I can revive it in like a few days before the conference. I don't know how much I'll really be able to be at the Polyglot Conference because of work. So I may only really be rewatching videos, but in the case that I get to be there in the forums and stuff, I want to be able to speak some of it. And Esperanto, I would say, is currently chilling at an A0, A1, but I kind of almost feel like it's at more of an A1. I tried to just think in Esperanto the other day, and it worked. And I've said this before, I can still read in Esperanto perfectly fine. I'm in the like Duolingo Esperanto Facebook group for some reason, and I think I'm in another Esperanto group as well, from when I was learning, and people will post things and I'll read them and then I'll be like, oh wait, that was Esperanto, wasn't it? And that's where we're at on the CEFR scale. No one asked for this. So on Friday, I ended up doing just some flashcards. I found an Italian course on Memrise that I really like. It's for kind of like B2 level stuff. And it's got a lot of words and phrases that I think are super useful and that I'll use super often, so I'm very excited about that. And I basically just did that on Friday because I was very tired. Saturday, I started working on a Spanish journal entry, but really didn't write that much. I was also quite exhausted on Saturday. Saturday, I definitely was a bit more tired. Like, I got through quite a bit of Italian stuff on Friday, but I didn't really want to do like a very intensive kind of thing. Saturday I was definitely quite just kind of worn out, so I only did a little bit of Spanish writing. And then on Sunday, I finished writing my journal entry. I ended up typing this because I did start it when I was feeling really tired. So it's all typed out, but this is a lot. And then this morning I woke up and filmed that video and another video. We're being real productive even before work today. I also have a Spanish lesson tonight, so I really wanted to do a bunch of Spanish stuff. I'm feeling a bit better about it now. I am not super looking forward to having a Spanish lesson tonight after work and after having filmed 2 videos. I feel like it's gonna be a lot, but in terms of Spanish, I'm feeling a little bit better just because I did write a really long thing. Like, that's a page typed. So I wrote a lot and then I filmed a video where I was speaking it, so I feel like I've got the practice that I need to go into this lesson. My Spanish lesson ended up going pretty well, I'd say. There were definitely still a lot of things I messed up, a lot of pronunciation stuff we worked on, but I really love the way that my tutor structures lessons. We do like reading stuff and then I'll answer questions about it. We'll have little conversations. We do a ton of different stuff and it covers a lot, but definitely, yeah, still working on getting my Spanish back to a place that feels good. It was nice to see though that the folder that we're working out of for her is B2 stuff. Like, that's where she has me placed even after that first lesson that I felt like I totally bombed. So I am kind of at that level. I didn't even tell her what I had received on the exam. As stupid as this looks, I feel like the giant pimple on my face looks slightly sillier, so we're just gonna go with it. Even though I worked open to close yesterday at work, I did get a bit of Italian done. Basically, I came home and I was having just this feeling of like fall academia type vibes. It felt like a night where I needed to get homework done before the next morning, and I by no means have like nostalgia or like good feelings about doing homework for high school or whatever, but I don't know, something about it, it felt like when I was in high school and I would watch Gilmore Girls to kind of like romanticize the feeling of being in New England and needing to get homework done or whatever. So I just leaned into it and did a little bit of Italian study. Alright, let's give you some updates, shall we? I went through yesterday and updated my kind of like tracker log thing that I made because I haven't done it in a while. And in doing it, I noticed that I have not been great with language study this month. Honestly, I've been really bad in September. I thought I'd done a little bit better than I had, actually. And I mean, in some cases I may have forgotten. There are a couple days that just have question marks. But overall, I feel like I definitely haven't been great other than the last 5 days or so. But today has gone super well. I just filmed a study with me video that will be coming out at the end of October, and I had decided that today I wanted to push myself to do 2 chapters of Italian Tutor, and I did 2 chapters, but I also did a 3rd, which means that I finished the Italian Tutor book. I was absolutely not expecting to do that, but basically one of the chapters, the second to last chapter, ended up being the subjunctive again. For some reason, it's like chapter 19 teaches you the subjunctive, so I'd already reviewed and kind of studied that, and then they give you the exact same grammar tables and introduce it to you again, basically, and I'm not sure if there was almost maybe a little bit of a mistake there, like the chapters were supposed to be combined or touch upon things, but it should have said, like, this is to review, when instead it just taught me the subjunctive again, so I kind of got to skip over that a little bit. So that's great. Finished with that, which means I just took the book out of my backpack. I'm going to my dad's for the weekend, and I was going to have it packed because I wanted to try to finish it this week. That was a big goal for this week, which is why I was pushing myself to do 2 chapters. And instead of that, I get to bring my Bulgarian stuff. It's finally happening, you guys, at the end of September. I am going to bring 3 Bulgarian books with me this weekend. I'm definitely not going to get to all of them. But the reason that 3 books are coming with me is because I want to create a kind of study plan for myself. Unlike the other languages that I was doing like a month of committed focus to, Bulgarian's going to be the focus for the next 3 months. It's going to be the focus till 2021. But like I said, there will probably be dabbling in Arabic and Japanese to kind of decide which one I want to focus on next. And obviously I will continue with German, Spanish, Italian, and I really gotta start speaking French again. And I'm also kind of considering bringing my Esperanto back, which is wild. I have said so many times that I have been so fine with just completely forgetting my Esperanto and not focusing on it at all ever. Maybe learning it again for Polyglot conferences, but not really doing much with it because I just have other things that I care more about. But I don't know, I watched a video in Esperanto the other day, and I just kind of feel like it's something that I still understand 100%, and I can read it, and I can listen to it, just can't speak it or write it anymore. And even then I might be able to a little bit, but I kind of feel like I may just pick it back up again. Not as like a priority by any means, but just in the way of like maybe occasionally taking an italki lesson and maybe trying to like read some stuff in Esperanto again. I don't know. I think my brain has hit that point in the language learning time again where I'm like, so many languages you can learn. I'm not feeling good about how September has looked in this log. But it's the end of September and I've picked up a little bit again, so I'm hoping that October looks very good. That's going to be my goal, is to make October look just excellent in this log. I'm trying to log time now too. Hello, it is now October. I didn't get a chance to update yesterday, but I thought I would just wrap up this video by kind of going through how September went. I've got my bullet journal here. I'm gonna go through kind of how things looked. Overall, not great. I'd say this last 2 weeks, week and a half kind of thing has been going amazingly. I've been really good with keeping up with languages every day. Multiple days I've studied multiple languages. There was a day where I made it through pretty much every language. There's just been overall a really good balance with that kind of thing. But looking back at September, there are huge chunks of time with nothing or very little. I just feel like I didn't really keep up with stuff the way I would have liked to in September. I also put in here, I kind of stole from that Clever Fox planner something that I liked since I've moved now back into kind of creating my own log. I do want to keep doing the log instead of the calendar that I was doing in the Clever Fox planner just because I feel like that's working a little bit better for my current schedule. I really liked the calendar setup when it was something where I knew I was going to be kind of at home every day and I knew what my schedule was every day, so I could kind of plan out my language learning in advance, whereas now, since I kind of have to adapt to my work schedule, it's a little bit better to just kind of log what I'm doing and kind of try to balance everything based on what I'm seeing in the log. But I took the wins to improve and that sort of thing. So what I put was a wins category, a to improve, and a next month category. So I'm just gonna fill that out real quick. I would say that for wins, I finished Italian Tutor. I also started my Bulgarian project. I'll say that I improved doing something every day, and I'm just gonna say that the 25th was a win because I did so much stuff on the 25th. And then for my to improve section, I guess we're gonna put balancing languages and types of things within language study. Like, I want to make sure that I'm doing not just Bulgarian as that's the focus, but doing things in all the others, even though it's going to be more immersion for all of the other languages. And then I want to make sure that I'm not just reading things, I'm also watching things. I'm not just working through a textbook, I'm also expanding my vocabulary, I'm also reading, etc. And I'd also say still to improve is doing something every day. And so then I get to plan next month. Not totally like a plan, but just some little like kind of notes to myself for next month is kind of what I'm hoping for from this section. So I'm gonna say for next month, I'm going to review colloquial Bulgarian. So what I've decided for Bulgarian is where with all the other languages, I was hoping to spend 1 month intensively reviewing and kind of catching myself back up to the point that I used to be at in the language, and then spending the following months doing immersion to kind of improve. With Bulgarian, I'm spending 3 months focusing on it. I know that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first month as a review, basically take that format from the other languages, and I'm going to do that through going through colloquial Bulgarian. I have always made it up to about like chapter 12 out of like 20 something, I think. So I make it like halfway through the book every time I try to go through this. And a lot of that's because I've restarted this book so many times, because my Bulgarian has been this very on and off project where I'll kind of study it and then I'll be away from it for so long and I'll forget a lot of things. And also, I've talked a lot about how I feel like the first time I studied Bulgarian, even though I was at a conversational point for very basic conversations, I feel like I didn't solidify things in my head so much. I really was able to use them kind of in conversation, but being away from them for even like a day or so, like they were gone. It was very much so like a very just kind of in the forefront of my brain, sort of like if you cram for an exam and you take the test and then the next day you've forgotten everything. That's kind of like how my Bulgarian felt just all the time. So I'm gonna make it through colloquial Bulgarian for real this time, which means that I'll review the first bit and then I'll actually move on to new material. How I've been reviewing it is I have this little vocab sheet, and what I've been doing is I hold it up to the vocabulary lists in the book and I test myself on the vocab, going from English to Bulgarian, and anything that I don't get immediately goes on the list. So I'm going to do that, going through as many units as I feel like I need to. Same thing with grammar, I'm kind of quizzing myself on that. So I'm not actually writing everything down because, again, I've done that so many times now. Like, I feel like I have the first few dialogues of this book memorized at this point. And I feel like it finally is sticking in my head. I feel like the last time I studied Bulgarian, I actually kind of solidified things for once. So I feel like I do have a good basis, so I'm reviewing that way, just kind of quizzing myself on vocabulary and grammar. Anything that I do need work on, like if I hit a conjugation that I'm not totally strong with or something, I'll spend a little bit more time, probably take some notes, do some example sentences, maybe do the exercises in this book. But I'm going to do that up until the point that I need to hit to be caught up. I believe it's chapter 11 or chapter 12 that I kind of fell off with. It might have even been chapter 13. It's somewhere in that range. And then I'll just finish going through this book. There are, let's find out how many chapters. There are actually only 17 chapters in this book, so I guess I've made it kind of more than halfway through. But I always stop, so I'm hoping to actually make it through colloquial Bulgarian. I know that the end of this book is going to take me longer because I won't have done this stuff before, and because it's going to be difficult and all of that. But I'm hoping that I can do that in October. I'm hoping that if I stick with the studying every day and doing things like that, I will be able to make it through. I think also definitely, like, I'll be able to fly through a bunch of these earlier chapters, where I am just kind of quizzing myself on vocabulary and grammar points and stuff, because I do remember a lot of it. So that will go by faster, and then realistically, I'll only have, like, I don't know, 12 chapters or so that I need to actually pay more attention to, and even of that, it's only going to be about 7 that are new material. So that is my goal for Bulgarian for next month. And then after that, I'm going to work through intensive Bulgarian. I'm still not sure about this book. People sent me the audio. Thank you so much if you sent me the audio. But I'm not sure where this falls into everything, because I have figured out that I want to review with colloquial, and then I want to move on to intensive Bulgarian, and if I finish this book in this 3-month period, like in the other 2 months, which I think is actually kind of possible. It's a big book, but if I'm spending 2 months going through it, then there's a possibility that I'll make it through it, especially because I won't necessarily need to learn all of the grammar points in this. I'll have learned certain things from this book. And so because of that, I just don't really know where this book really falls into my language study. Maybe at some point what I'll do is I'll actually just go through this just to kind of take vocabulary that isn't in either 2 of these books. Let me know if you have any advice, but I know that this is probably a pretty niche thing. And that's it. That's, I think, the plan for next month and for the coming months. I'm about to go film the intro to the October video, But this is the end of this video, so I hope you enjoyed getting to see another month in my language learning kind of life. I feel like this one might be a little bit of a boring one, just because I don't feel like I did all that much, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Hopefully October is filled with lots and lots of language activities. I'll see you on Wednesday, and remember, practice makes progress.